I'm Merisa.
And I'm Jordan. Today we'll be discussing two topics from the year 1904. Merisa will start us off with...
Today I'll be speaking about the Summer Olympic Marathon that took place at the World's Fair in St. Louis, Missouri on August 30th, 1904. But before I begin on the actual event, I wanted to tell you the story on which the race is based on. It's based on an ancient Greek legend that dates back to 490 BC. And the story goes that an Athenian messenger named Pheidippides was tasked with going to Sparta to request help with the Persian invasion that was happening in Marathon, Greece. So the race is actually named after a town in Greece called Marathon.
I was just about to ask that. And Sparta, where's that?
Oh, come on. You know what Sparta is.
I have never seen 300. I haven't. I only know about memes.
Whatever.
Is it? So it's a city, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So, and it's still there. Marathon is still there. I checked. I thought maybe it was lost to history, but it's still in existence today. So the story goes that Pheidippides ran 240 kilometers or 150 miles in 2 days.
Wow.
He then ran back again.
Wait. The whole way he ran?
Yeah, he ran.
Okay. And why did he run? Why didn't he get a horse or...
I looked that up because every time we hear about messengers are portrayed in movies, they're always running. And it turns out that horses are great to get you to your destination if it's a short distance. But if it's a farther distance, at that time, the best thing to use was a human being to get your messages across, because human beings can run for longer periods of time without needing to stop. And horses continually need to stop and rest and graze in order to build up the energy to continue running. So a human being was the fastest way to get any type of messages or proclamations across.
I mean, aside from pigeons. Because pigeons would be faster, right?
I don't know. As a pigeon, are they reliable?
Yeah. They're best at navigating back home. You give them 2 locations, put a little message in there. Yeah, it's proven today you could do that.
I don't believe
They can go 7 miles in a few minutes, 10 minutes.
No, they used human beings.
Okay,
in ancient Greece.
They didn't rely on pigeons. They relying on messengers.
Yeah, and these messengers, they were heralds that monarchs and noblemen would use to convey messages and proclamations.
Okay.
So in order to be a messenger, you had to be basically a professional runner, because you had to have the stamina and the endurance to run for long periods of time.
Wow, so you're hired based off of your ability to run.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
They couldn't ask me to do it because I'd pass out after 2 miles. So
yeah. So professional runners was a thing. You got paid.
Yeah, because you got paid to deliver messages and things
so
like that.
So that was something you put on your resume. No, really, I can run faster. And then maybe is that how you think Olympics even started? Because they would audition them to run and see who could go the fastest in such a short period, or I mean, it could be.
I don't know. I know marathons were created as a tribute to Pheidippides, but I don't know if it was accidentally started by, this is your job interview and you're going to run from this point to this point.
And a king just sat there in a throne watching people run, and the fastest one got the job. I mean, it could be. I'm just guessing.
But I didn't read anything about that.
Okay, sorry.
But anyways, back to the story. Pheidippides runs 150 miles and then runs back again. He then runs from Marathon to Athens to declare the Greek victory over the Persians. And when he reaches his destination, he collapses, and his last words are, "We won." So marathons are based on a professional runner who ran to death. And the 1904 Olympic Marathon almost lived up to that legend when a couple of their athletes nearly died. But I'll get into that in just a moment. First, I want to tell you about the type of course and route the athletes in 1904 had to run through.
Okay.
So what do you think of when you think of an Olympic marathon? The settings?
A marathon Boston Marathon, a closed-off street outside, where they have...
Yeah. You think of an outside event that's closed off to help secure the athletes from outside elements like vehicles, animals.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Okay, but in 1904, unfortunately, they didn't have any of that. So
What, police and stuff, or cones?
They had barely, if anything, cordon off.
Oh, so it's just out in the open.
Yeah, so they were given a route, and the start and finish place were at the same location at the stadium at the World's Fair. So they were given a route, and they had to run and avoid, while they were running, they had to avoid vehicles, wagons, horses, pedestrians, animals. And then you also had the Olympic officials that were following them in their own vehicles. So they were kicking up all this dirt and dust. So they had to run through all of that. And then on top of that, they described it as a hot, scorching summer day. So in the race, it was 32 athletes that were representing 4 different countries.
Okay, wow.
And of those 32 athletes, there were 10 Greeks that had never ran a marathon before.
All right, they're just winging it.
I'm assuming, which I found strange because you would think that in order to perform at the level of a marathon, an Olympic marathon, you'd have to prove yourself and win other events.
Yeah, but maybe they just knew they could run. Maybe the people, the village folk says, yeah, you should go and join the marathon. You can run pretty fast for a long period of time.
So there was 10 Greeks that had never ran a marathon before. And then the 1904 marathon also included the first 2 Black Africans to compete in the Olympics. So not just the marathon, Olympics altogether.
Okay.
And there were 2 Sawana tribesmen named Len Tao and Jan Mashiani. And they were actually brought to St. Louis as part of the Boer War exhibit. The Boer War was a war fought in South Africa, but it was fought among white Africans. So I'm not so sure why they brought them over as part of the exhibit. I wondered if it was maybe a disguise to get them over into America to then draft them into the Olympic race, but I couldn't find anything that confirmed that.
Boer War, how are you spelling that?
Boer. I don't know. Am I pronouncing that correct?
I think so, yeah. Boer, yeah.
Boer, yeah.
Sounds like a German name, like South African. I don't know.
But they weren't even part of the war. They were actually just 2 students from South Africa. And they showed up to the starting line with no shoes on, which I guess people found that a little bit strange because everyone else was wearing shoes.
Maybe they were better off without shoes?
Maybe they were used to running without shoes.
Yeah, maybe shoes would hurt them more. They get chafing and maybe they have calloused feet.
Yeah, they were probably used to running without shoes. So the first person over the finish line was an American athlete named Fred Lorz, but he wasn't the actual winner. So around, yeah.
So wait, he was the first?
He was the first to cross.
But he wasn't the winner.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me tell you what happened with him. About 9 miles into the race, he decides he's going to quit because it's just too much for him.
All right.
So he hitches a ride back to the stadium in a vehicle. And as he's driving by, he's waving to the other athletes, to the spectators. He's waving to the Olympic officials. But at the 19th mile mark, the car breaks down. And he gets out of the car and re-enters the race and then jogs over the finish line. So people are congratulating him. He takes his photograph with Alice Roosevelt, who was Theodore Roosevelt's daughter.
Okay.
And they're about to award him the gold medal, but then the Olympic officials confronted him, and he stated it was all just a joke, that he was just playing.
That's what you do when you're caught in a lie. Oh, I was just joking. That's to see if you'd catch me. That's weird, though. Like, they didn't realize that he was way ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, like way ahead.
Yeah, like he shows up after 4 minutes beginning the race. Like, wait a minute, how did this guy get here so quick? And then an hour later, everyone else is showing up. That's weird.
But nobody believed him that it was just a joke either, because the Amateur Athletic Union, or the AAU, they banned him for a year from competing in any of their races.
And that's nice. That's a very lenient punishment.
Yeah.
1 year.
And
You'd
then,
usually be banned for life or something like that.
And then in 1905, after the ban was lifted, he won the Boston Marathon race. So
okay. So
hopefully
the first one
didn't cheat.
Yeah, so the first one you mentioned was St. Louis. And then a year later in Boston.
Yeah, Boston, yeah.
Okay, and so when you mentioned earlier the marathon, that's just the history of why it's called a marathon.
Yeah, and
so Marathon Greece.
Yeah, and then it's
got you.
And it's based off of the story of Pheidippides.
Oh wow, yeah. So I never knew Marathon was a city.
Yeah, me either.
That's very interesting. So it makes sense.
But
marathon, yeah.
The actual winner was Thomas Hicks. It was a Britishman running for the United States.
You say Britishman?
How do you say
No,
it?
you might say. You probably said, I've never heard it said that way. A British man, but Britishman. All right.
How do you say it?
I would say British man.
British man.
But I've never heard Britishman.
Britishman.
Is that a slur? I don't know. Like if you said that about Chinese people, that's a slur.
Chinese man.
Yeah, but if you said, never mind, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it here. Not in 2020. But anyway, that could, I thought that was different.
I'm sorry. A British man running for the United States, he won, but he barely won. And I don't mean like there was somebody close by that almost beat him to the finish line. I mean like he almost died.
Yeah.
He too suffered from the extreme physicality of the race. And about 10 miles from the finish line, Hicks had to be restrained by his trainers from quitting because he was just so tired. So what they were doing, they were giving him doses of a stimulant called strychnine, which is a common rat poison. And what it would do, it would stimulate the nervous system in small doses. And they gave him egg whites and brandy as well. So he was able to keep going, but barely. And he was hallucinating the rest of the way.
Wow.
And his trainers had to hold him up.
What would brandy do for you?
I don't know, which was weird because it dehydrates you.
Yeah. But maybe it was... Well, that's weird. That's weird. Maybe they thought like alcohol was a medication for many things in that time.
So they get to the finish line and his trainers actually have to pick him up and carry him over the finish line. And as they pick him up in the air, he's still shuffling his feet as though he's running.
Like running in air?
Yeah. So then they quickly take him off the track and he's treated by several doctors. And they stated if it weren't for the doctors there, he would have died.
Yeah, from brandy, alcohol poisoning, and running.
And rat poison. Did you not miss the part?
No, I got that bit too, yeah. But that's weird. All of that's weird.
It wasn't illegal back then to do that.
What was the purpose of the rat poison?
It stimulates the nervous system in small doses.
I heard, stimulates in a positive way?
Yeah.
Like it makes you keep going?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm. And he lost 8 pounds during the course of the marathon.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's one way to do it. So if we want to lose 8 pounds in a day, rat poison, brandy, and running.
Another near fatality during the event was an American athlete named William Garcia. He was found lying in the road along the marathon course with severe internal injuries caused by all the clouds of dust that the cars were kicking up. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I always see people, doing rush hour traffic running without a shirt or in, like, women in their little spandex shorts and sports bra. And they want everyone to see them, They're like, hey, look how fit I am. But when they're running along the highway during rush hour, they're breathing in all the brake dust, the fumes. It seems like it's counter-efficient for your health.
I don't know. They seem to look good. So
yeah,
they seem to be doing better than what I'm doing and sitting at home. So
yeah. But you think like going on a nature trail or something, it's more like away from pollutants. But yeah, they're always like along traffic.
But some people don't have that luxury of going.
I guess so.
Yeah. So they have to use what.
Yeah, but I can imagine back then when you have the dust from unpaved roads, like you said, along with the unfiltered fumes coming from these old cars from 1904.
Yeah. And then there's Felix Carvajal. He's a 5-foot-tall Cuban postman who raised money to attend the Olympic Games through events across Cuba. But he lost all of his money in a dice game when he got to New Orleans. So he had to hitchhike to St. Louis to get to the Olympic Marathon. And when he showed up at the starting line, he was wearing street shoes with trousers cut to look like shorts.
So his makeshift.
So he was wearing dance shoes with pants that were cut to look like shorts.
And he said he was 5 foot tall.
5 foot tall,
so
yeah.
5 foot tall with like little cut shorts and dancing shoes. And he's from Cuba?
Yeah, but his story doesn't end there. So it had been about 40 hours since he consumed anything. So midway through the race, he stopped at an orchard to snack on some apples. But the apples turned out to be rotten. And he got really sick. And he started to feel ill. So he decided he was going to take a nap during an Olympic marathon.
Classic tortoise in the hare story.
But then he wakes up and continues on his way. And despite all of that, he still came in 4th place.
Wow.
So imagine how well he could have done if he didn't eat rotten apples.
How many apples are we talking about?
It just says a couple. Snack on some apples.
I don't know if that's like, you don't know after the first bite, like.
It's rotten.
Yeah. There's a worm in it. And anyway, that's weird. But good for him. 4th place.
And the Sawana tribesmen that I mentioned earlier, Len Tao and John Masciani, they came in 9th place and in 12th. A lot of observers were upset because they thought that maybe Len Tao could have done a lot better had he not been chased nearly a mile off course by aggressive dogs.
So just a group of dogs, neighborhood dogs.
Yeah, They chased
chasing him away from...
a mile off course.
He could have just stayed on course, right? No?
I mean...
I guess you're trying to avoid them. Maybe they're coming at you from the opposite direction. Man, that's interesting.
So the winners were Thomas Hicks. He got the gold medal. Albert Corey. Albert Corey didn't show up with the correct documentation because he was actually a French immigrant. So they had listed him as running for the United States. He got the silver medal. And Arthur Newton got the bronze medal. He was also from the United States.
Ah.
So the marathon of 1904 was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Especially the little Cuban man.
Who lost his money in his dice game.
He got sick from apples. A guy, that's a movie. And then a guy getting chased by dogs. That's funny.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of, that movie.
There's no order. It's just anything goes.
It's just chaos.
Yeah, it's like American Gladiators. And always like, okay, release the dogs.
Like that.
Give him a rotten apple. See how he... It's so silly.
You know that movie Cannonball Run?
Yeah.
I imagined that when I was reading this. Yeah, just the craziness.
It just seems like a comic.
And what topic are you talking about today?
Well, I can't top your story, but a guy who is very popular during this time, 1904, was a physicist, named Nikola Tesla.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah. Hoping to get his Cybertruck next year.
Oh, my God.
Well, not his, but of course they named the Tesla cars after his genius. So this man was very popular during this time. He in 1904, to explain the phenomenon of ball lightning.
I've only ever heard of ball lightning when I'm watching alien conspiracy shows.
Yeah.
Is it a real thing?
It's never been completely proven, but it has been in a way. It's all over the place. And doing research on this was so... Oh, man. You get a lot of fake articles, a lot of fake videos before you start finding some real information. So to answer your question, it is real, but extremely rare. So what ball lightning is, it comes in many forms and from many sources. So it's an electrical discharge, usually appearing in like a spherical shape. And unlike regular lightning, it tends to linger for a while. So it doesn't just sort of flash. It stays and it floats around. And
so what is it made of that it stays and floats around like that?
I will get to that very soon. So it is kind of a mystery, but I will talk about that in just a minute. But it occurs naturally, rarely. And despite best efforts of Tesla and others, the exact origin of the phenomenon is a mystery, like you said. And although there have been reported sightings of it, like during storms, usually like in a lightning storm, you'll see like a ball of lightning just kind of fall from the sky like a shooting star. Mm-hmm. And I've seen videos of that, and these videos would be very hard to artificially reproduce that appearance. When you see these like cell phone footage cameras of it, and you just see a little blue ball and it comes from the clouds and it just falls to the ground, disappears. And that's usually during a lightning storm. So I don't know what that particular one's made of. Usually elements in the clouds, and something holds it together, electrical charge, and I don't know why it glows. That's the hardest thing, is finding research on this. Now, spoiler alert, Tesla never really proves the mystery of ball lightning. He only attempts to. So like I said, it's been spotted in very weird places, hovering over fields, in kitchens, alongside airplanes, inside airplanes, and especially during World War II, floating along the clouds. There were a lot of British World War II pilots that would see these glowing balls of light and then chase them down, trying to find out what they were.
Oh, really?
So, in popular aviation culture, they call them UFOs. Well, these British pilots, World War II, they call them Foo Fighters. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you've heard of the band.
Yeah.
And I bet you wonder what that is, or why is it called?
Yeah, because I'm Hispanic and we say foo a lot instead of fool.
Yeah.
So we'll say like this foo right here.
Yeah.
So I always assumed that's what it meant when they said Foo Fighters.
So you thought about the Foo Fighters? Like you thought it was just a silly
Yeah, because they're from they're from Seattle, right?
They're from Seattle.
Oh, okay, I thought they're from California.
Yeah, you never. When I first heard about the band, the Foo Fighters, I was thinking like food fighters, like food, like throwing food, and they were just being silly and took off. I don't know what I thought it was just a silly made up name.
Yeah,
but there was actually they named themselves a band after this phenomenon of these World War II British pilots chasing down these glowing orbs or lightning and not knowing what they were, if UFOs or whatever. And they called them Foo Fighters because back in the 30s, there was a comic. And a comic means like, like Garfield, like those type of comics, like the funny ones, right? The little in the newspapers. There's a comic called Smokey Stover from 1935. Now, the comic writer, the author, whatever you'd call him, he made up this word foo. It's like a nonsense slang word used in the 30s. So it's one of those like, pick a word today. I don't know.
Stan.
Stan, right? Explain what is Stan.
It's based off of the Eminem song Stan, how a fan gets obsessed and will do anything for the celebrity. So whenever you hear somebody say, I stan them, it means like they're a big fan of them.
So it's become a verb.
Yeah.
But it's a name that became a verb, right? So you're right. It's kind of like that. But if you try to tell someone about 50 years ago or even 50 years from now and try to explain the word stan, they wouldn't get the reference unless they knew the reference. So these people in World War II, they knew about this comic. And so in their pop culture, foo was a nonsense word. It wasn't really a profane word, but it kind of meant something profane. But it was clean, so they could use it. So during war, they'd use this word foo. I'm getting a little off topic, but I do want to explain the whole Foo Fighters thing.
Okay.
It's one of those like, okay, sometimes you would hear the word foo combined with foo bar, like FOO-BAR, right? Mm-hmm. And that was like in that comic. The one I mentioned earlier was called Smokey Stover. Mm-hmm. I researched this a lot, this word, foobar. And
did you research it more than the ball of lightning?
Probably, because there's only so much information on ball of lightning. But I was more interested in this whole word, foobar. Right?
You went down the rabbit hole.
I did. And I came out with some good information. So foobar back in the 30s is equivalent to today's term, fucked up beyond recognition. Mm-hmm. So... yeah. Hey, so how's that helicopter going? It's foobar.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like it's fucked up beyond recognition. We can't fly it. Like it was a clean way of saying something very vulgar.
Okay.
But in a very fun way.
Okay, because see, sometimes when I'm at work, I can't say fuck, so I'll say fudge.
Yeah.
So okay.
So it's like an alternative. We all know what it means. Mm-hmm. We know what you're trying to say, but you can't say that. So So that's what foobar was kind of like, right? So. Now that we've got that, that's what Foo Fighters are. Foo Fighters like, hey, what's that little glowing orb? Let's chase it down. Oh, it's a Foo Fighter. It's like a nonsense fighter. It's like an enemy that doesn't really exist. It's like playing with us, or it's a ghost or whatever. And so that's the best way that people in World War II could describe that, because it wouldn't show up on their radars, and it was something they were definitely seeing with their eyes. Everyone saw it. It wasn't like it's an illusion. People actually saw this thing. They chased it down. It was moving, but they couldn't figure out what it was, and it would just disappear, or it would just go out of sight.
Okay, so that's maybe how UFOs and aliens...
Probably, yeah, because they move so crazily.
Or since it still could be UFOs and aliens.
It could be.
Because you've never really captured it.
We only assume that like aliens could be made of, elements like we are.
Mm-hmm. Or bio...
Yeah, like bones and flesh, and but they could be just gas.
And light.
Yeah, there could be many things. They don't have to be in the same form we are. They could be life from a different planet, from maybe even a different universe.
They don't have to be from like organic form.
They don't have to abide by the same laws of physics as us either. There's many things that we could go on about Foo Fighters or ball lightning. So it has been proven that it's real. So earlier we were talking about, is it a mystery or what? So still not proven exactly what it is made of, though. Like you were asking earlier, what is it made of? These Chinese scientists in 2014 actually recorded it through video and using some technology that would kind of read the different elements. They were Chinese? Chinese.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I was thinking Japanese. Okay.
Okay, because they usually deal with technology, or?
No. I'm thinking of earthquakes, something regarding that.
Maybe. Or I mentioned World War II a few times. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Chinese scientists in 2014 used this video equipment to record ball lightning. And the first time the spectrum ball lightning was read, they were able to use this technology to read the elements, which consisted of silicon, iron, and calcium, which are all elements that can come out from the soil. So when lightning can strike, it can pretty much bring up a vapor or dust cloud of these elements and create electrical charge around it. And for a few seconds, you can see this ball lightning made up of those things until it burns out.
That sounds like the lightning that happens during a volcano eruption.
Yeah? What do you mean, like... I know about that. There's like lightning storms inside a volcano.
Yeah, it's colliding fragmenting particles of volcanic ash, which generate a static
Oh.
electricity. So it's not coming from a thunderstorm. It's coming from the electricity.
Yeah, and the heat.
Yeah.
Wow, and like all the charges.
So it sounds
It probably is
similar to that.
Yeah, but it's something between the clouds and the earth. And it's using the elements of the earth to pick it up and create this. Now, if you look at YouTube videos on ball lightning, you'll see different stories and people claiming that a ball of lightning came from like the cockpit of a plane down the aisle. And everybody saw this. So it's like it's been documented and you know, I don't know if that many people would be in a lie together, you know, like, hey, so we're all going to say this when we land, right? We're going to say that we saw this ball of lightning. Like, why would they definitely saw something. And people were frightened by it. They saw this like ball of electricity coming down the aisle. Now, in most cases I've read about, it happens through glass. So maybe the electrical charge could be outside the glass, and on the inside of it is where the elements are being picked up. So it's kind of a static electricity type of thing. And maybe because of the burning elements, it's creating this glow. There's nothing definite on this or what it could be. But it is highly dangerous and it can explode on impact. If you threw something at it, yeah, like if you threw a metal rod at it, it could explode, and it's a very dangerous thing. You don't want to be around it. And there's been a few cases where people have died from it also. And it's much like a bubble. You blow a bubble and it kind of hovers in the air for a little bit, and eventually it's going to pop. It's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
It's only so long it can hold up, and it's going to pop. So it's much like that. Now, of course, he wasn't able to prove this, but he was able to, now Tesla I'm talking about, he was able to kind of replicate it. Now, these balls of lightning can be anywhere from like a golf ball size to like 2 meters in diameter. Much like how it could be made of dirt or elements from the ground, also be made of plasma. Now, in an article that I read in the Electrical World and Engineer in 1904, Nikola Tesla wrote, and I'm quoting, "I never saw fireballs, but as compensation for my disappointment, I succeeded later in determining the mode of their formation and producing them artificially." So he was able to replicate them, but never really capture one.
But there's no evidence of that, right?
Of a natural one?
Of what he created?
Well, he did create it.
Okay.
He wasn't able to capture a natural phenomenon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to like create it, you know, but he was able to use instruments to recreate it.
What happened to those instruments?
They're still around. You see those plasma balls?
Oh,
those things you touch?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's something of his creation. He, you know, those things you touch, and then the little electricity bolt goes to your fingers. Mm-hmm. You touch it with both hands, your hair sticks up.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's one example. Another thing Tesla says, this planet, with all its appalling immensity, is to electric currents virtually no more than a small metal ball. Tesla hoped to use this phenomenon to transmit through the air not only telegraph and voice signals, but electrical power itself. So you mentioned in one of the episodes, which was it, like 2 episodes ago?
1902, yeah.
1902, you mentioned how someone was trying to do, what was it, the wireless phone?
It was Disney. Disney was their quote-unquote scientific department was trying to create a room so they could put in their resorts. So when you walk into one of their hotel rooms, your phones or any up to 10 devices will be charged through the air. So it'd be wirelessly charged.
Yeah.
Well, you could be on your phone and it's getting charged and it's not plugged into anything.
Do you know about the towers that he tried to create free electricity?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are they called?
About them. The I can't say it. Tesla oscillators. The Tesla coil oscillator.
Is that what it was?
I think so.
There was a famous tower that he used also. So have you heard of the Wardenclyffe Tower?
Yes.
So like the wireless electricity that Tesla was trying to create to like anything between these towers can give you free wireless electricity.
Yeah, like what Disney was trying to create at their resorts.
Yeah, but failed to.
No, I think they
did.
Yeah, the last time I did was a couple of years ago. They're still trying to.
Oh, you're talking about recently? I thought you meant back then.
No, I mean like 2017.
Yeah, so they are trying to recreate what he created over 100 years ago, and so these Wardenclyffe Towers actually got dismantled because there's a lot of politics involved.
Yeah.
You thought you were going to say something.
I was going to say I don't believe they dismantled it and got rid of it. I think it was utilized.
Yeah.
In non-public ways.
Now here's if you're like into conspiracies and all that, just a little bit of trivia. If you know about how Tesla died,
I know he was alone and poor and in a hotel, right?
Yeah, he was in the New Yorker hotel in New York City. Now one thing that New Yorker hotel had in common with the Wardenclyffe Tower is it was the same size, and it also went underground. And he lived in a tiny little room, but he had a lab at the very, very top of this New Yorker. It was this big area for a laboratory. Mm-hmm. This is only like kind of conspiracy. It was a secret. Now, why would Tesla, this genius of his time, be living in a little hotel, poor? And why? Why would someone that popular be in a New York hotel living there?
But was he popular at the time? I mean, now he's, seen as like a legend and whatnot.
Well, he was still known very well. Mm-hmm. People, they named streets after him in New York. But if you look at the Warden Tower and look at the New Yorker, they're the same structure. Now, it goes underground, and it's the same size, exactly the same size. The New Yorker is the same size as the Wardenclyffe Tower. Mm-hmm. And where he was staying at the top, there's this pole that went off the top. Mm-hmm. And it was saying how he was trying to use that to experiment using the New Yorker hotel as a thing. He used to have his own little secret exit. He went out to go to the subway every day. So he would go down from his room. He went down this tunnel that he had access to go directly into the subway. And so he had access to the entire hotel. Now, there's these copper pipes, which are used for ventilation.
Oh my God, that's what Disney was using. They're putting huge copper pipes within the rooms.
Yeah.
And that's what they were using to try to conduct electricity through the air.
So they used it for ventilation, quote unquote. Mm-mm. But it went all the way down from the ground, deep underground, at the very bottom of the structure, to the very tip of the hotel. Now, if you look at the New Yorker, it's huge. He was trying to replicate the Warden Tower using the hotel. Now, something he can experiment on every day, and he's under the radar. He's like hiding in plain sight, conducting these experiments. So I thought that was very interesting in researching this. Where was I about the electrical balls? So he had some competition. You've heard of George Westinghouse? You ever see those like really shitty TVs that have white Westinghouse written on them?
Yes.
Yeah, they're terrible TVs, but they don't make them anymore. They're tube TVs. Anyway, that was his competition, was Thomas Edison and George Westinghouse. George Westinghouse bought Tesla's patents on, and the AC power eventually triumphed over Thomas Edison's, his competing direct current system. So you look at an adapter, any type of adapter, you see AC/DC.
Yeah. Which
is what the band AC/DC is named after. They actually looked at a fucking adapter and said, oh, that's a cool band name. They looked at an amp or something, right? And so that's what it was, alternating current and direct current. So the alternating current, of course, triumphed over the direct current, which is what Thomas Edison came up with, which was great, but not as good. A glowing orb of ball electricity was even rumored to have killed George Wilhelm Riemann. He's a 18th century scientist. Mm-hmm. So he was experimenting with it too. So the thing is, ball lightning is real, but does it happen naturally? That was the phenomenon. Like, what is going on? Can it be replicated in nature? Of course, we can do it now. We can replicate a ball of lightning. How is it possible in nature? Well, we looked at plasma. We looked at elements from the dirt. Mm-hmm. That's all we have to go on. So it hasn't been completely proven, but there are videos capturing it, and the Chinese were able to replicate it and show that, yes, it can happen. So in conclusion, ball lightning is an unexplained atmospheric electrical phenomenon described as luminescent spherical objects that vary from pea-size to several meters in diameter, usually associated with thunderstorms or any sort of electrical activity, such as volcanoes, like you mentioned.
I still say it's aliens.
Yeah?
No.
It could be. We don't know what aliens are. Aliens could be anything made of any element. I mean, we only assume they have eyeballs and nostrils and hearts, but they could be made of gas. They could be made of any sort of element. What if they're not water-based life? You know, they could be mercury-based life.
That's true.
Why do we have to associate life with life as we know it?
Because that's all the life we know.
Yeah, it really is. Mm-hmm. We can't fathom any other type of life. We think you have to be in the Goldilocks zone and be water-based life. But that's my story.
Alrighty, what are some other things that happened in 1904?
Well, let's see. On January 12th, Henry Ford sets a new automobile land speed record of 91.37 miles per hour, which is 147.05 kilometers per hour.
The International Women's Suffrage Alliance is established.
Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany becomes the first person to make a political recording of a document using Thomas Edison's cylinder. Remember those?
No.
You didn't see that Antique Roadshow where the guy's like holding the very last one and he breaks it? He's holding this old cylinder they used to record before records. And he's like, look at that up if you get a chance.
I will.
It's really funny. He's like holding it, it's like, oh darn, and he breaks it and it shatters in his hand.
Oh my
It
goodness.
was like one of the last cylinders. What else?
Opium production begins in the Netherlands Indies.
A French film company, Path or Patha, I don't know how you pronounce French words, breaks into the US film market. Now I've seen that logo before. P-A-T-H-E with an accent over it.
Fat with PH.
Patha. I don't know how you pronounce that. I don't know French. I've never heard it said. I've only seen it. The logo is pretty cool.
US ends occupation of Cuba.
All right. Well, that's our show of 1904.
And if you'd like to view pictures of today's topics, you could go to our Facebook page or our Instagram page.
And if you'd like to follow along with the pictures while listening to this, you can go to our YouTube channel, This Year in History, and you can see the pictures as we talk about them.
And that's our show. We'll see you in 1905.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.